Rona, how is your leg? Can you hear me? Rona, how's your foot?
My feet, you mean?
Okay, Ruthie, there's 5 of the bagel lox and cream cheese left, and a few of the brownie ones.
Oh, my goodness.
But you have kids. I'm not gonna take it from their mouths.
Dwayne dropped a baggie of the sweet ones off to Asher today. And I got a text message. Oh my God, Mom, these are so delicious. Thank you.
I've never even heard of a Hamantaschen that wasn't sweet. I'm learning
now
so
you
much
have.
from you guys.
David, the dough
Oh.
is made from barley with dill and butter and flour and salt and a little fresh barley, a little fresh dill weed. And then the center is whipped cream cheese, a little lemon juice, salt, and lox. And then
Wow.
you sprinkle it with the whole thing with everything bagel seasoning.
Oh, that sounds incredible.
It's a good
Oh,
breakfast.
it's amazing.
Passion.
They're really good fresh out of the oven.
Are you serious? Or I go.
Anna, maybe you should do a cooking thing for the temple on Zoom.
Yeah, that would be nice.
If anybody asked me to, I'd be happy to.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
asking you and I'll put it on the agenda. I'll ask, I don't know what group I'd ask. Who would I ask for that one?
All right. Well, let's get started, folks. Let's start by reviewing singing some of the things that we've learned. So let's start with Vishamru. If you're in Siddur Sim Shalom, I think it's page 34. If you are in the Aleph Isn't Enough, you can find it on page
62.
44. 34 and 44. All right, I'm going to mute everybody.
44. I don't see.
Ready. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam oti le'olam oti le'olam Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz vishamru v'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash shavat vayinafash shavat vayinafash vishamru v'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam. And now let's review the singing of Avot on page 35b in Siddur Sim Shalom. If you don't have that, please try to find the. Do you want me to share the Does anybody not have Siddur Sim Shalom who's here today? No, we both. Let me share it on the screen then. Oh, hold on. I need to do something to share it on the screen. That was not it. There we
David, I found the one in our textbook, and it's just, is there anything else different besides that one Leah comes first and one and Rachel comes first and the other?
Yes, there are other things.
Other different, okay, never mind that.
Yeah. So we could talk more about, I thought we talked about some of them.
We
but
did, you know what, now that you mention it, there's that other word too.
There's the
So,
word
okay.
Cocaine versus Ezrat,
Yeah.
and it's treated differently. So let me
Okay,
just share the screen.
thank you.
There you go. Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Ufi Agita Hilatecha. Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Ufi Agita Hilatecha. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov. Hold on 1 second. 1 second, 1 second. There we go. Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, Vehanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chasdei Avot, Umevi Goel, Livnei V'nehem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahavan. Skip the 2 little lines for Shabbat Shuvah. That's only for that Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Melech Ozer Ufoked. That's a difference. Umoshia Umagen. Baruch Atah Adonai. Magen Abraham Ufoked Sarah. There's that difference again, the Foked. So you'll notice that if you keep it there in Sim Shalom, but also take a look on page 72 of Aleph Isn't Enough. You can see for these last 2 lines here, the Melech Ozer, it doesn't replace it with Ezrat. It just doesn't do the addition at all. Like it has a traditional text for this line, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen. It doesn't add the insertion for Sarah there. Just king, helper, savior, and shield. I guess they think that it's general enough that they don't need. But here, for this last line, the one with the blessing, we've got Magen Abraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah on page 72, and helper of Sarah, rather than Foked, which, so we looked at, could have a positive connotation as like a guardian or someone who remembers to fulfill a promise, but it could also have the negative connotation as just as remembering to fulfill a promise, remembering to punish one's wrongdoings. And that's why, again, they made that difference. Any questions about either? I'm going to stop sharing. Well, I'll leave it there for Becky if you want it. Any questions? You can unmute yourself if you have any questions about the physical reading and singing of this, or about any of the meaning aspects that we discussed. Yes, Ruthie? You have to unmute.
Sorry, I thought I did. When do we bow?
Oh, I was just going to say that and forgot. Thank you. So, do you see how after Adonai Sfatai, the first line starts Baruch Atah Adonai, and then the last line of Avot before, this Atah Gibor line starts Gevurot, the next section. The last line of Avot also starts with Baruch Atah Adonai. Those are the two places.
So every time you see every time you say Baruch Atah Adonai, you do the bowing in the whole.
In Avot, not in Gevurot.
Okay.
So that's something that I often see, and I'm not going to be correcting people at the temple or anywhere else for that matter, unless I'm teaching a class. Well, I'll just tell you, if you want to bow, then bow, but it's not the tradition. The tradition is to bow only during Avot. Then later in the Amidah, there are actually some bows, but they're not for parts that we do out loud at the temple, so it doesn't come up. So the bowing is actually, it's not just a waist bow, it's a bend the knee on Baruch, bend, straighten the knees and bend from the waist for Atah, and come up right before Adonai. So you're bending the knees, Baruch, bending from the waist, Atah, come up for Adonai on both that first line and last line of Avot. And it's actually, the word Baruch that we translate bless or praise, if it applies to God and we have trouble conceptualizing what that means, it's actually from the word for knee. Berech is the word for knee. So like bending the knee. So that's a way to remember that. Yes, Teresa, unmute yourself.
So I just want to make sure that I heard you correctly. You said on Baruch, you bend straight down at the knee and you stand up and then you bow.
Well, let me just demonstrate here.
Sorry.
Oh, you're helping us
No
all.
problem.
I can get it. Yeah.
Can you see my knees?
Yes.
So it would be like Baruch Atah
Okay.
Adonai.
Okay.
So bend the
That-
knees to Baruch, straighten the knees and bend from the waist on Atah, and then up for Adonai.
Okay. That's what I thought you said, but I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's the tradition. Anyway. So, now I just want to go over some of the homework. I asked you to read the next few pages in this book and especially read the Hebrew. And we just went over some things very quickly there. So let's start on page 73. So we've got this list of expressions and greetings. I'm going to ask people to read. I'm going to say the English, and I'm going to ask you to read the Hebrew. Hi, Steve. All right. So actually, Steve, why don't you read the first one? Good morning.
That's punishment for being late?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Unless you were cooking for Becky. And there's no punishment for that.
I did cook a lot of the day yesterday for Becky and not for me at all.
Good.
All right. Boker Tov is good morning.
Good. Thank you. And good night, Becky.
Lila Tov is good night.
Good. And good week, Teresa.
Shava Tov.
So the vowel for the vet wasn't quite right.
Oh,
It's not
yep. Shavu Atov.
Perfect. Good. Shavua Tov. Good. And Good luck, Rona, which we often use for congratulations, but it means good luck.
Mazel tov.
Mazal tov. Good.
Mazel tov.
Yeah. Good. A good year, Ruthie.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova. Good. Happy holiday. Hannah.
Gag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Yes, so that's like the traditional greeting on any holiday. That's an all-purpose greeting for any holiday. Chag Sameach. You might also know, oh, Norman's here. You might also know another holiday reading, Good Yontif, but we won't have you read that because that's not Hebrew, that's Yiddish. Good. Yontif is actually the Yiddishized of Yom Tov, which means good day, which is another Hebrew word for holiday. Hi, Norm. All right, complete healing. Annie.
Refuah Shalema.
Good. Refuah Shlema. So you
Which
might,
is what we're wishing for Penny, who's feeling under the weather after her second vaccine yesterday.
yes, we wish
Oh.
any Refuah Shlema.
Shlema.
Mhm. Yeah,
So that's what that means.
that means refuah. So you probably recognize that from the Misha Baruch prayer. It's in there, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. Refuah Shlema.
Shlema.
Healing of body, a healing of spirit, right? So that is a complete healing. That's the traditional.
I always wondered what that
Leave it
meant.
to the Jewish people to have like a traditional phrase to say to like, let's get well. So good. So now we've got the fourth and
David, could I ask a question about the second word there?
yeah,
So there's a shiva underneath the sh, the
yeah.
shin. Is it shalema or shlema?
You know, I would say that it's shalema, that
Okay.
it's there. You do pronounce the vowel, but you often hear it without it. And who am I to say that they're wrong?
Well, I heard you say it the other way, and I just wanted to make sure we
Or did I
We
say
say it-
refuah shlema?
right, we say it correctly. That's all. That I say it correctly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Shalema. Good. All right. So the fourth commandment, the one that is the first line there. Mike, could you read that one?
Okay. Zachor et Yom HaShabbat L'Kadasho.
Lekad show. Oh, actually, there's a typo there. There should be a shva under the dalet there. There's no vowel for the dalet, which is incorrect. But it's still pronounced the same way. Lekad show. Good. Zachor et Yom HaShabbat Lekad show. Remember the day of the Sabbath to make it holy. And honor your father and your mother, Natalie.
Kabed et avicha ve'et imecha.
Excellent. Kabed et avicha ve'et imecha. Good. So now let's skip these translations of the Avot on page 74 in the first half of 75. I encourage you to read those on your own. I don't really see any point in reading that together. Read it on your, either with your chavruta or yourself. Norm left and came back again here. So now we've got some vocabulary, and this is some pretty important vocabulary. Not that you have to memorize it, but just to be aware of it. And, if you happen to remember it, it would be a good thing. So, Norm, is everything okay?
I'm having some computer problems as usual, but I'm here with you now.
Okay. So we're
Could you
just
please
going
tell me
over
what page we're on?
75. So we're just going over the parts of the chapter that I asked you to read the Hebrew for homework. So, Norm, do you want a minute or should I call on you now?
Why don't you give me a minute, please?
Okay, great. So I'm going to say English and I'm going to ask people to read the Hebrew on the bottom of page 75. Okay. Father in singular. Teresa.
Av.
Was it?
Av.
Did you hear?
Excellent.
Av.
Yes, Av. Good. And father in plural, Rona.
About.
Excellent. Good. Mother in singular, Annie.
Him.
Good. Mother in plural, mothers. Hannah.
Emote or emahot.
Good. And if you look at the top of page 35B, it will say, let me just share the screen quickly here again. Oh, it's not, never mind. If you look on, I cut off the top of the page. I was gonna say, if you look at the heading on page 35B, if you have the actual book, you can see it says, Amidah, Arvit l'Shabbat, Kolel, the last word of Hebrew here, Imahot. There are no vowels, but that's what that is. That's including Kolel, Imahot, the mothers. Great. All right, let me stop the share. And now, kindness, singular. Becky.
Chesed.
Good. Plural, Steve.
Hasadim.
Chasadim.
David,
Yes.
some temples have a group of people that tend to the bodies of the deceased before the actual funeral, and
Yeah.
some of them call themselves the Chesed committee or the Chesed group, and I never knew what Chesed meant. So
So often there's a group calling themselves the Chesed Committee, and what they might do something like provide meals for people who are sick or people who are in mourning. These are acts of kindness for members of the community who need a little extra loving kindness. So yeah, so that's a very common and important word in Judaism in general. Great. So God. Norm.
Ale.
Ale. Good. Because we're used to Adonai, Elohim, but El, which is the original shorter form that Elohim was expanded from, is also a word for God that comes up in our prayers. You can see that it's in Avot, Ha'el, Hagadol, the God, right?
David, Yisrael is the Ale God, and it's God of Israel. Is that where we get Yisrael or not?
Yisrael means one who wrestles with God.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But the ale part is what you said.
So it's from
Right. Yeah, but I had the rest wrong.
the El part is God. The Yud, the Yud Sin Resh is wrestler. So that's from the first time that word appears in the Torah is when Jacob wrestles with the angel. And the angel names Jacob Yisrael because you wrestled with God and prevailed. So that's the source. Yes,
We
Norm?
need another year to catch up to that on our Torah studies.
Well, that's why we jump ahead in adult prayer in Hebrew. All right. Big or great, Natalie.
Gadol.
Good. And good, Mike.
That'd be Tov, but I have a question.
Sure.
Mother, aim. and Emot and Emohot. But I've always heard mother as Ema.
Ima, and you probably heard father as Abba.
Yes.
That's how I originally learned it, Abba and Ima. But so those are formulations that have the like the familiar would be like mamita. It's sort of like mommy and daddy. Is really Abba and Ima. Sort of. It might be maybe not quite as childish, but it's the more familiar, affectionate form.
Right. Right. Okay.
Any other questions about this page? Great. So let's go on to the vocabulary on page 76, which is also all names of our Avot and Imahot, the patriarchs and matriarchs. So I'm going to call out, and we'll continue this. I'll call out a name and ask you to read it. Abraham, Ruthie.
Abraham.
Sarah, Rona.
Sarah.
Sarah, good.
Sarah.
Isaac, Norm.
Yitzhak.
Say it again.
Yitzhak.
Yitzchak, yes. Yitzchak.
Oh, it's a hard K. Okay.
It's a hard K.
Yitzhak.
It's a kuf. It's a hard K. Yitzchak. Good. Rebecca, Teresa. You're muted still.
I just put myself on mute. Rivka.
Good. Jacob, Steve.
Yaakov.
Good. Leah, Hannah.
Leah.
I said Leah. I meant to say Leah.
Leah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Leah.
Do people say Leah in English? No, people say Leah in English.
Right.
Yeah.
I've heard it both ways, so.
Yeah.
Leah.
Rachel, Natalie, please.
Rachel.
Rachel. So all of those are in Avot Nimahot.
Oh, God damn.
And it's all preceded by Elohei. Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Velohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah. So all that means God of. And we talked about, somebody asked the excellent question of like, why repeat all these Eloheis, God ofs? And that's been very fertile ground for discussion for generations, not just for us. And one of the answers that I like is that every generation and every person has their own relationship and own concept of God or not. Yes, Norm. You're still muted.
Do you mind muting everybody? Because there's somebody's got some noise
Sure.
going on in the background.
Sure. Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, you're all muted now. So, so now we've got these roots of Ayin, Zayin, Resh, which is to help. And I'm going to I want to go through this a little bit more quickly because I want to get to what comes after that I didn't ask you to read. So we have a whole bunch of names based on help: Ezra, Azriel, Azariah, Eliezer, which means my God, Eli, Ezer, help, my God, help, my God is help. Or El Azar, God helped. So, and what we see in Avot from this root is Ozer, helper, Melech, Ozer, Melech, Ozer, right there. And Ezrat Sarah, it's that descriptor of Sarah. if you use the version that's in here. And then we got Zion Kaf Resh. We're on the top of page 77 now. This root meaning remember or memory. And this comes up so much in Jewish liturgy and in Jewish life in general because memory is so important to us. We have our memorial service, yizkor, a form of this verb, of this root, meaning memorial. We've got zecher, which is a memory. Lezecher, in memory of. Zikaron, Yom HaZikaron, Memorial Day in Israel. I'm skipping some of these. I hope it's not, we've got some names. Zechariah, one of the prophets. In Avot, we've got Zocher, that God is a rememberer. Zocher Chasdei Avot, rememberer of the pious deeds of the ancestors, or the kindnesses of our ancestors. All right, now we're going to move to page 78. Finish it up. So now I want to talk about these building blocks. Adjectives. We've learned some adjectives, but we haven't talked about adjectives in general. So before you tense up too much, that grammar tension, we're not going to get into the grammar very much. An adjective is basically a word that describes a noun, that describes a thing. So for example, good. Good boy. The boy is the noun. Good is the adjective because it describes the boy. All right. In English, we only have one form of those, good. It doesn't matter whether it's a boy or a girl or boys or girls. But in Hebrew, boy, girl, boys, girls are 4 different variations on the same adjective. The ending changes to match the gender and number of the noun. So boy in Hebrew is yeled, girl is yalda. Often male nouns end sort of plainly, and female nouns singular and with an at the hey at the end. And so the adjective does the same thing. Good boy, yeled tov. Notice that the adjective comes after the noun in Hebrew, the opposite of English. And that is very, very rarely, you might find an exception of that, but almost always the adjective follows the noun in Hebrew. It does in many other languages too. So we got yeled tov, good boy. But the good girl, the yalda, is tova, yalda tova. So tov turns into tova. Boys, or a mixed group, yeladim. So often a male plural group ends in im, and so does the adjective. It just matches. Yeladim tovim. And girls, a group of girls is yaldot, and that would be tovot. Same, the o, the vav with the dot above it, o, tav ending is the typical ending for a feminine plural noun and adjective both.
What page are you on?
78. I'm using a different word. I'm using a different noun.
Okay, thank you.
Just to confuse you. They're using melech.
Okay.
They're using melech and eretz. I decided to use a different one.
Okay.
I don't know why. I probably shouldn't.
Okay, at least I said, gee, I'm lost. I'm not too lost. Okay.
Norm.
Except anyway.
So even if you had a noun that was clearly feminine, you would still use a feminine adjective? So if you said Rachel Tov would be wrong. It would have to be Rachel Tova. If you want to say good Rachel.
Yeah. Yeah, because Rachel is feminine.
So, okay. So we're genderizing sometimes both the noun and the adjective.
Yeah, well, every noun has a gender in Hebrew,
Right. So
just like in Romance languages.
So why would we, this may be beyond this class, but why would we have to have a feminine adjective to a feminine noun?
Oh, like why do they match?
Well, why did we have, why couldn't we say Rachel Tov instead of Rachel Tova?
Well, you know, if Rachel identifies as a male, maybe you would.
Oh,
I'm not going there, okay? I'm muting.
You
It's
know,
the
David,
nature
you
of
just
the
made
language.
me wonder.
What was that?
I was wondering how they're handling all the transgender and gender fluid and everything else with this kind of a language.
Well, it comes up also in every European language except English.
Well, that's
Well,
what
actually,
I mean.
I don't know if German and the Scandinavian languages do, but all of the Latin-based languages do. You know, French.
Yeah,
and Spanish and-
I'm trying to remember back to when I took German. I think there's
Yeah,
gender
German,
too.
I think German has got gender in there now.
Yeah, I think there's gender in German also.
Yeah. So
Der and das.
So this is a worldwide, you know, everyone has to really think about what they're doing. So so let's go to the bottom of page 78. So we've got these phrases of greeting at the very bottom of page 78 and also the top of 79. And so all of those ones on the bottom of 78, those are all masculine nouns. Boker, Laila, Shavua, Mazal, Chag, those are all masculine. So those all get Tov, not Tova. Chag is masculine, so it gets Samech. However, Shana, the year, is feminine. Is there any logic to this? I don't think so. It's just these things developed. Healing, feminine. So that gets Tova, not Tov. And Refuah gets Shalema, not Shalem. Good. So it's not only the, this is an interesting thing in the middle of page 79, that the word chayim, the word for life, a singular word in English is a plural word in Hebrew, chayim, which, you know, we could probably have a very philosophical discussion on why it might make sense for life to be a plural word, but let's not do it. Or let's do it after class. But in any case, even though we would translate chayim singularly, in plural, in Hebrew, it's treated as a plural word in terms of its adjectives. Chayim tovim. All right. I don't want us to get too hung up on this. We're not going to be like composing sentences in Hebrew, just so that like when you see this stuff, you know, oh, I'm reading this word, it's tova, and over here it's tov. So it could have some meaning for you now, if you have some understanding of how the language works. That's all we're doing. So don't feel that you have to memorize these endings unless you want to. All right, Steve?
What is the singular for Hayim?
There is no singular.
Well,
Well,
although
there's
there is
Kai. There's
18.
Kai.
Right, but that.
But there's
that's
no,
a
but
different
it's,
meaning.
yeah.
Okay, no, we were both trying to figure out what was the singular. We couldn't think of a singular for life.
Yeah, it's not used in the singular. So, yeah, and you know that just to make sure that we know that the name of the temple uses the word Chaim.
No.
The translation of the name of our temple, Chaye Shalom, is life of peace, or peaceful life, or life of peace. It's a dual noun. So when you put together these construct nouns of two nouns you put together, and the first one ends with that plural masculine ending im, the im turns into a, into ye. Chaim turns into chaye when it's part of a construct now. Yes, Norm.
We say Eitz Chaim,
Yes,
the tree of life,
right. That's also a dual noun.
but we don't say Temple Chaim. We're saying Chaye.
Right. The difference is that in the temple's name, the Chaim, the Chaye is first. So you're asking why Chaim is turned into Chaye for Chaye Shalom, but not for Eitz Chaim? I'm not sure your question is, Norm.
That's the question.
That's the question. It's just the first one is the one that gets changed. The second one doesn't get changed. It's the order.
Ah.
Okay, how are we doing with this? Is everybody's eyes glazed over from this? All right, so let's go into Chevruta and do some reading to cure ourselves of that a little bit. What did I just do here? Oh, there we go. So here's what I want you to do. So I'd like you to just practice reading the Hebrew on pages 78 through 81. And, if you've had enough of Avot, you skip Avot and do the other things, unless you want to review it. So let me put you into, so we're just practicing reading Hebrew using these adjectives.
Okay.
And you have, a line from Aleinu and the blessing before Haftarah again also. All right. So we're just practicing a little reading for a few minutes. So let's see how this does. Oh, that looks good. Here we go.
I don't know if anybody's there, but I can't see you. I can't see. Oh, now I got it.
Wait, have you,
Oh, wait.
so you guys have not joined rooms yet. Now we're cooking.